Happy April Fool's Day. We are recording.
Happy April Fools.
You're gonna hear this on a different day, but we are fooling each other and fooling around and talking about our wellness journeys and how we, got started, our struggles, what we were fed up with, what we wanted to achieve, things like that.
So let's talk about why we started our wellness journey. For me, I was severely overweight. I was severely depressed. I wasn't doing anything besides getting up and going to work and coming home and, swinging by the drive-through, eating that on the way home, and then throwing out the garbage before I got in the house type of routine. That was my routine, if you will. And I just didn't know what else to do. So that's where I was just struggling, mentally, struggling, emotionally, and then just emotionally eating whatever.
Yeah.
For how long did you struggle with that? Like, was
Oh
it,
Lord.
years or,
It's probably it was a good few years. And it finally came to a head about 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And just, I was just fed up with myself and just how I was acting. And I'm like, this is not sustainable. None of my clothes fit. I just felt like blah.
Yeah.
Right, right. Well, on the other hand, I have struggled with weight since I was a little girl. Like, I'm talking, I was probably, skinny when I was like five. I remember seeing pictures when I was 5 years old, but then all of a sudden, weight started creeping up. Like, I had my first Big Mac when I was 5 years old. And back then, they were huge. And for a
Mm,
5-year-old to eat a whole Big Mac, I mean, that was like pretty crazy. And so, weight has just always been a struggle with me. I was a latchkey kid growing up. So I had free reign to whatever my mom bought. But my mom she didn't buy a lot of junk food, but I ate sandwiches, so the bread and just other stuff, it just stuck with me. And I was not an active kid. I mean, I would walk to the pool in the summers and I would, do certain things, but throughout high school and stuff, I did like through shot put and discus. So we didn't have to do a whole lot but weightlifting, so I've always struggled with my weight ever since I was a little girl. And I was a personal trainer for quite a few years because I got on a really good fitness regimen. And I thought, this is what I want to do because I really want to help people because I was in a good place. And then things started happening over the years. I quit being a personal trainer because I moved, and things like that happened. And then I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and a lot has shifted in my wellness journey since then. It's just been it has been a real struggle. And that's it. It's common. It's common for everybody
Yeah.
to have struggles, and it's common for for it to start in your childhood. And
Yeah.
that's where it started.
Yeah. And mine's the same. So like I was like an active kid. I was always outside. My mom worked a lot, but like we lived in a really cool duplex. And so my grandmother lived on the other side. And so my grandma was kind of like my second mom. And it was just really the three of us. And so I was always outside doing things or helping her in her garden or what have you. But I remember that there was like a shift and my mom ended up falling at I think it was like a picnic or something. And she's had like back issues. Like she's had like, I don't know, 12 back surgeries. It's been ridiculous. But
Wow.
I remember like that be kind of being a shift because we would actually, and like Mel, like my mom didn't buy, like I remember growing up and always having like push-ups or like um fudge bars in the refrigerator, but like as far as food, like we ate. I mean, it was just my mom was single, right? And then we had
Same.
our grandmother that she supported also. So we ate a lot of things that like my grandma got from like the food bank or
Mhm.
the garden and things like that. But I remember my mom and I would go to Burger King, and it
Mhm.
would be like we would go shopping and then we would go to Burger King, but then go home and make dinner. And
Oh,
like you, like your Big Mac, I remember having like Whoppers
yeah.
at a very early age. And
Mhm.
so I think, and this is gonna, I'm not blaming you, Mom, in case you ever listen to this, but I think food became a way for her to self-medicate. And I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
that kind of rubbed off on me a little bit. Um, because and plus like my family is Italian, right? And so we socialize so much around food and
Food.
around like
Yes.
growing up, my entire like all of my memories are around like the kitchen table
Hmm.
Yes.
and my
Mhm.
grandmother cooking and having all of this great Italian authentic food
Right.
and everybody like my cousins and my aunts and just everybody coming over and us socializing around that table.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
even though it was like healthy food and scratch like food from scratch, I equate food with a good time. And
Hmm.
so
Right.
whether I'm like feeling down or um just whatever, like if like birthdays, we always went out and celebrated at a nice restaurant. If you get
Mhm.
a job promotion, same thing, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
I think that's very common across the board is people to associate food
Mhm.
with
With
those social
rewards.
actions,
Hmm.
whereas,
Yep.
really we had to kind of switch our brain into thinking it's not necessarily about the food while it's great, but it's really about the
Mhm.
people that are around that
Mhm.
table,
Mhm.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
I think for me too, as a kid, um, I was a full-fledged member of the Clean Your Plate Club, and
Oh yeah.
just the starving children in
Absolutely.
China were gonna eat my dinner if I didn't.
Mhm.
Oh
So,
You know
God.
it.
um, so that has kind of, that's something that I still struggle with today. And, going out to a restaurant where it's like, no, I don't need to eat everything on this plate. I can take it
Mhm.
home,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or even, here, cooking at home. It's like if I make a big pot or a big dish of something, it's like I don't need to cut myself a giant slice of lasagna. I can start small and then eat that and then see,
Lasagna.
yeah.
My
So it's like just certain things like that I'm still trying to break that now.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Wait,
there's a lot of generational habits that, we take on because that's what we're taught. You
yeah.
know, that's how we cook. And that's just how we have, we taught our children and this and that and the other, not that I have any, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, it comes down and like I grew up with Southern food, like fried potatoes, pinto beans, cornbread, things like that, stick to your ribs kind of food that it's just like now I can't imagine eating that every day.
Mm,
Imagine, just I can eat it maybe once a month or something like that, or if we're celebrating something,
yeah.
but so, I mean, it's those generational things and it's hard to cut those habits.
Yeah. Andrea, when you said that about you were the clean plate club, a memory of
Uh-oh.
me and my cousin were sitting at the kitchen table at my grandma's house and she was watching both of us and he and I are very, there's only a few age differences, or years separating us, but I loved cream of wheat. And, again, that was something that we always had because she got it from the food bank, right? And she made it and I don't remember what happened because typically, I mean, she was such a great cook, but this one time, I don't know if she got pulled away, but either way, it cooked too long and it was
Mm,
lumpy. I didn't want to eat it. That lady would not let me leave the table until I ate every lump, every
mm,
smooth part, like just everything. And at that time which makes sense. I mean, she came from like she didn't have a lot her
yeah.
entire life, right? And so it was like, no, like whatever I make, you need to eat.
Yeah, because there's
And
nothing else or
yeah, and
yeah.
that's what it is. And so I remember like, that kind of carried on with me. And even when I had kids, like I was still like, no, you can't go out and play because you have to finish your food,
Mm,
even though they told me that they were hungry. And I think there's a fine line between your kids telling you that they're full because they want to go play,
right.
while they're still hungry, and then still but you know the difference, right? Like, you know if they're hungry or not. But I was very adamant about cleaning their plate until I kind of rewired my brain. And then I'm just like, okay, if you're full, like Caden, my youngest, he has a very small like stomach. He's super skinny, and he's very different than the other two. Like, he can't throw down in one sitting. He eats like a lot throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
but if he eats too much in one sitting, like, he actually gets sick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that memory just came back to me like whirlwind, and it was just like, oh my God, like I actually went, like, oh my God, I remember how foul that cream of wheat was. But yeah.
Gosh. Well,
So when you were finally to the point where you were fed up with, like you said, Andrea, you got to the point where you had to do something because you were hiding food. And I've done the same thing.
Yeah.
At that point you feel like, something's wrong with me. I don't need to be doing this. So what was it, ladies, that just flip that switch, and what made you decide to start your wellness journey?
well, I mean, for me, I was literally like, at this point, I'm not doing anything productive. So I'm just basically scrolling social media. And it's actually a really good friend of mine. We were childhood friends. We lived down the street. We were, also she is a full-fledged member of the Clean Plate Club. And, you know, both of us struggled with our weight, even as
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I had been watching her stories and posts, and, she was doing like these exercises at home. And I watched her transform, from a shy little girl. She's a few years younger than me, so she's always going to be, little girl to me. And, turn into this like extremely confident and like passionate woman. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, what the hell is this girl? What is she smoking? Like, and why do I not have any? Um, you know,
Gimme.
but just watching her do these sorts of things. And I had reached out to her, and she told me that she had been doing Beachbody programs. And I was like, okay, like, I've heard about them, and I was really skeptical, and I was like, it's a scam just like everything else. Like, I did South Beach diet, I've done Atkins diet, I've done the fucking maple syrup bullshit, and I don't even know
I
what it's
haven't heard of
called.
that one.
It's the lemon
I
water
want
or
a maple
maple
syrup
syrup
diet.
or whatever. Um, it's fucking terrible, by the way. And yeah, if you want to just not eat anything for 3 days, go for it. Um, so, and like watching my weight fluctuate from all of those things. And then ultimately, every time it would drop, it would come back 2 times over. And I said, you know what, like, let me just try it. Like, I was I belonged to gyms. I literally, like, was in a time where I had paid for an entire year of a gym membership because I was like, this is gonna make me go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many times I went? Twice.
Once.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah,
Twice
I
in an
know.
entire year that I paid for.
I
Okay. So I'm like,
completely
you know what?
understand.
So, I started doing it. And I started small at first. I started, waking up early and just um doing a workout in the morning. And
Mm-hmm.
literally after like 3 weeks, I had so much more energy. Um, I could feel a shift within me, and I was like, okay, like,
Mm-hmm.
I did the first 3 weeks, like, I'm gonna keep going. And
Right.
to this day, like, I still firmly believe that, like, I like, this has helped change my life.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
so not only was it programs, they offered recipes, and this woman welcomed me into her community, um, of other women like me struggling. And it was really that community that helped keep me going.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you're encouraged to post that you did a workout. You're encouraged to post
Yep.
that you're struggling,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing those other women also struggling with the same thing
Yeah.
is what helped me keep going.
Yeah.
And then
I
they're also
remember.
cheering me on when,
Mhm.
you completed something or did something. And
I remember
that's,
you being in that MBF group. That was
mhm,
our, that was the
yep,
first group I think that I remember you being in,
that was it.
because I went to the, that's when I went to the beach, the
Yeah.
infamous
You got stoned
meeting.
sitting
But
on
it,
the rock
I
or
mean,
like Rain Man.
Oh my God.
well, but I found myself in something, a similar situation. Like I said, I had really found my groove with my fitness and became a personal trainer, and then I moved back up to Virginia because I was in North Carolina, Charlotte to be exact, where close to where Jen is, and and it was, I continued my journey once I got up here and got settled in and everything, and then I was getting ready to start college in my 30s. Yes, I did that. And I got really sick. And I went to the hospital and they said that I had I had bowel obstruction, you know. And so then like 6 months down the road, almost a year, all of a sudden I have Crohn's disease. And so it's inflammation of the small intestine and things like that. So I could not do any activity and I was a member of the gym, because every time after my surgery, they took out 2 feet of my small intestine.
Mm.
And after my surgery, every time I went to go do any type of physical activity, I had to shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just stopped going to the gym. And it just seemed like I needed to not do anything. I blew up. Like, I gained so much weight and I gained everything back that I had years worked on losing. I mean, I was in such a good place with my physical outer appearance that that's the only time I truly loved myself, was when I looked like that. And I know it's not all about looks, but that for me at the time,
You
that's
felt good.
Mhm.
yeah, I did. I
Felt good.
felt good.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, just my whole body felt good. And so 7 years ago, I had just gotten sick and tired of being, overweight, feeling sick. Everything I ate went right through me. I wasn't absorbing anything nutritionally, but everything stuck to me. And so I saw a girl that I thought that I was friends with. I really did, because we had so many mutual friends. We worked at the same restaurant, but apparently we were like ships in the night. And she quit right as soon as I got hired. But she was showing her journey.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea, was watching her friend. And so I was, watching her journey, and I had seen other people doing Beachbody, and I was like, I don't want your shakes, I don't want your bullshit. I'm a
Yeah.
personal trainer. I don't know what the fuck to do,
Yeah.
And so I got started in a free group because I couldn't afford it at the time. And I got started in a free group and I did this line dancing workout. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm moving my body in my apartment. If I have to pause and go to the bathroom, I can do it and nobody is going to see me, And so here we are 7 years later, and I can't tell you how many programs I've completed, but it has changed my life so much. And I'm not like pressing here to, disclaimer, buy Beachbody or anything like that.
Right.
I'm just saying, for me, it was the community. Everybody brought me in. They supported me in my struggles and in my successes. And it has brought me to know so many wonderful women, especially you two,
Yep.
like my besties. And because like nobody can relate to what you're going through unless they're going through it themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest part of this community, is that we're all going through the same struggles a little bit differently, but they're the same struggles.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it too is like you can check in with everybody like at the same time. Like I'm not like saying, hey, go sign up or anything, but you have to find what works for you. But with something like this, if you're struggling, like if you want to have a binge fest, there's some place for you to go and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. I need help. And there's people literally at your fingertips that are there to help you.
Yep.
You don't have to wait for a weekly meeting. You don't have to do this alone. Like you literally have people at your fingertips that know what you're going through and that can provide that support any time of the day or night.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. And so I've had like, you know, very similar paths to you two. Like I remember growing up and like doing like Sweat to the Oldies, Richard Simmons
Richard
workouts
Simmons.
with my mom.
Yes. I
Yeah.
did disco sweat.
Yeah. Like I remember us doing that in our living room. And
Yes.
you know, and because she, after her injury, she gained a lot of weight and she wanted to like, you know, lose weight and stuff. And so I always did that with her. And, but I also think that, again, sorry, mom, I think that also instilled that like insecurities for me.
Right.
And I like looking back, I always felt like I was like I was a majorette in high school. And I always felt like I was the big one on the squad. And now I look back at those pictures and I'm like, oh girl, like you weren't big, like you were athletic and you looked gorgeous. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I was the person who like on the way to work would stop at a drive-through, get food, go to drive-through at lunch, on the way home, go to drive-through, go pick up my kids at daycare, and then come home and make dinner.
Right.
When I was married, I would go down into the kitchen in the middle of the night, binge and bury all of like the wrappers and the evidence down in the garbage can. That way nobody knew. And then after our divorce, I just, you know, blew up. And just because I, again, was medicated with food, I was medicating with alcohol, I used to self-cut. I just wasn't in a great mental place. And so, you know, like you, I did the Weight Watchers, I did the South Beach, I did the Atkins, I did the, you know, whatever. And if those things work for you, great. They just didn't work for me. And food has always been a trigger. And as soon as I restrict myself from something, I want to binge. And so I have to be very careful and very mindful about the restriction.
Yes.
And so I was literally sitting in my new apartment. My kids were sleeping with my face in a like half-gallon thing of ice cream and flipping through. And I came across the infomercial for a workout program because like you, I didn't want to go to the gym because I felt like everybody was staring at me. I had such high insecurities that I thought people would be like, oh my God, what the hell is she doing here? Or I was just afraid like I wouldn't know how to operate the machines, or what if I got tired, or what if I had crotch sweat? Like just all of these things, you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to go and trying to better myself, but then embarrass myself at the same time.
Right.
Plus, I had 3 small kids and I was newly divorced. I was literally living not even paycheck to paycheck. Like something was always late. And I was working about 50 hours a week and something was always late. Right. So anywho, I was watching this infomercial and I got like the butterflies and the tingles, and it was like a dancey kickboxing program. And so I didn't even think about it. I was just like, I need this. I'm at my, like I have these cuts all over my body. I'm abusing my body. I'm not being a good role model. You know, I truly believe that if I didn't have the boys, like I wouldn't be here today. I was just in a very dark place. And so I ordered it. It came, I tried it. It was super hard. I threw it in the closet. A couple weeks later, I got it back out and I was like, you know what? I don't care if I'm on the same foot. I don't care if I'm behind. I'm just going to start moving and I'm just going to try. And I have nothing else. Right. And so at that time, I didn't buy like, you know, I bought the Shakeology. I bought, you know, this program. And this is whenever you only got like the DVD of one
DVDs.
program. Right. And the Shakeology. And I went throughout the entire program. I ended up losing 30 pounds. It was a 90-day program, lost 30 pounds. And I was like hooked. And I still didn't have the money for the shakes every month. But I was like, you know what? If I don't go through drive-throughs 3 times a day, if I don't buy ice cream to put in the refrigerator, if I swap out, like, I didn't want to deprive my kids, right? But if I bought them something that I didn't like you know, cheese curls, then I felt like I could manage this. And so I started putting all of that money that I was spending in these other areas towards my Shakeology,
Right.
and the weight just kept coming off. And it was just, whenever you take that power back, and I think this is the
Mhm.
one thing that, you know, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it was like, everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants more energy. Everybody wants to feel confident. But with every good thing that you want in your life also comes sacrifice, and also comes a time of like frustration and pain and struggles, right?
Yep.
Whenever you're working out, your body's going to be sore. There's going to be mornings where you don't want to do it. There's going to be times where you want to eat that entire medium pizza. There's going to be times where, you fall off the wagon or you fail. And guess what? That's okay, because you learn something from it. And it's something
Mhm.
that you can put, tweak and realize. And instead of being so damn hard on yourself that like, oh shit, I had an entire medium pizza. It's fine. What did you learn from it? Were you super
Exactly.
sluggish afterwards? Did you go to bed from it? Did you have the shits afterwards? Like all
I
of
would say, did you shit your pants?
like all of this stuff. And it's like,
Yep.
okay, those are your cues that's your body telling you, girl,
Mhm.
stop this
S
fucking
Yep.
nonsense, right?
Right.
Yep.
And ever since, I'm not saying that my journey's been perfect, because like you ladies know,
Mm-mm.
it
It's
hasn't
not.
been, especially these 2.5 years with having cancer. And now, Mel, I'm very much like you. I'm on the other side of cancer, thank goodness, but I'm learning how to navigate this new vessel that's carrying me through life. You had to learn how to have this new body that reacts in a totally different way than what you're accustomed to.
Yep.
Your weight, increased, and because you have to figure shit out. And I'm in the same boat. But guess what? People who go through and don't have like a health scare or injured, as you age, your body's going to naturally change. And so what worked in your 20s is not going to work in your 30s. It's not going to work,
Right.
definitely not going to work in your 50s. And you have to be open to that constant tweaking
Change.
and
Yep.
experimenting on yourself, and really stop comparing yourself. I know I'm going on a tangent, but I just want people to stop comparing. And when I say people, I'm also including myself. We have
Right.
to stop looking at what other people are doing, and we have to start looking inward and really paying attention to how our body responds to things, how it responds to alcohol, how it responds to certain foods, how it responds with lack of sleep, all of that kind of stuff. Because if you don't, then you're not going to see the success. And so why go through all of the struggles and all of the hard work to get to where you want to be if you're not doing that? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, it's okay to fail at your journey, because it's all trial and error, until you can find what starts to work. And then, you know what? Surprise, it's going to work for a bit, and then
You
it's
have to
not.
change it again. Yep.
So, and then you're going to have to continue to tweak, and you're just continually learning about yourself and your body and how it reacts with what you're doing.
Yep.
Well, I
So,
definitely think that we can continue this conversation. Like, we definitely need another episode to talk more about our journeys and our struggles, because this is just such a topic that, so many people can relate to.
Yeah.
So I think we really need to continue this discussion
Yeah.
later on. And I appreciate you all being so open and just telling your stories and your struggles, because so many people can relate.
Yep.
absolutely. So let's wrap things up for today. So why don't, our request of our listeners, come on over to our Instagram page, check out our episode 3 post, and share what wellness programs you've tried. Also, if you want, share what's failed and how you've overcome it. If you failed it and have overcome, feel free to share that too.
Yep.
And
Well, thanks, ladies. This was the best way to start my Saturday morning.
Yes, me too. Jam on.
All right. Talk to you soon. Love y'all.
Bye.
Bye.